Yeah,
Hopefully, hopefully nobody will notice. Hopefully they're driving and they won't notice.
well, the good thing is as long as audio is okay, that's usually the okay point. So
Right. Yeah. But yeah, so we're live right now, so I don't know. People were expecting this at about 7 tonight. I think I don't know why I have this scheduled through StreamYard
okay.
for like 7 tonight because I think I normally do it 7 Mountain Time because I normally do 7 Mountain, 9 Eastern,
Okay.
and I don't know. I don't know what I did. I somehow had it done. StreamYard is I just moved it over as like a Thursday time to Monday because I remember you couldn't do it Thursday. And so now here we are, and then I got a unicorn curry run today to go do. Anytime it's Sherwin-Williams and pays over $100, I'm right on it. So, and then
Yeah,
I
I
got
don't
the
blame you.
alert as I was pulling up to my driveway. It's like you're live on Zoom. I'm like, what? I'm like Zoom, and I don't even use Zoom. That's the other thing. I'm like, what have I done here?
Oh yeah,
So,
I don't know. Yeah, that was the thing that you sent me
oh,
like when we first scheduled it. So I'm like, oh okay. All right. Yeah, it's showing live, so I just wanted to make
yeah,
sure.
yeah, it is.
So then at least I have the chat popped up too. So if people are chatting in there, then
Yeah,
incorporate or however you
yeah.
want to
Right
go.
now, hey, Faith, what's up? Dasher Pass is in there.
What's going on?
I see Dasher Pass. Faith is in the chat right now. So I was saying hi. But yeah, I just so all this was a big jumbled mess. If anybody's been listening, it's all my fault. I want to thank Chris from Real Rideshare Stories for coming on today.
Well, thanks for having me.
I'm kind of panting from running inside, guys. So just give me a second. I'll catch my breath here.
Oh, don't worry. You know, you've been going crazy this last week. I was moving, so I'm actually in a whole new spot right now.
Okay.
So I had to, you know, I set up my desk really quickly the last couple of days, and then I actually like really set up my real desk and everything, just to kind of to make sure everything's okay here, to
Right.
get going. And then, you know, this is our temporary move, and then we're moving out of New York into South Carolina soon. So,
Oh,
yeah,
really?
we're kind of all over the place at the moment too.
So moving twice, man. That sucks.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is, though, that I can say everything is packed up and in storage. So that's the hardest part, in my opinion, is just getting everything that you have packed up. So
Mhm.
just pretty much the stuff that we use is what we're going to use. So that's not hard to pack up. That takes a couple hours at this point now. Everything
Right.
else is just put it on the truck and then drive. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, as long as you leave it packed up, I guess it's different. But um, yeah. So man, I was really in the shuffle here. I came in, my son's eating breakfast. I'm like, move, that's my spot. Like I set up. He's like in his room. He's like, going move. He's
Oh,
home
no
from
worries.
school. The whole thing, man, was just kind of a cluster. And yeah.
No
So
worries. It's all good.
there we go. Well, again, thank you for coming on and taking the time. And yeah, I've been just keeping these to about an hour now. I'm trying to with the live stream. So I guess let's jump in with some things. So I know you've been out and about making your videos, doing your stuff that you always do. And what's up with upfront pricing?
Well, you know, honestly, I like that fact. I don't have it in my market yet.
Right.
I don't know if Columbia is going to have it where or Charlotte because we haven't really decided where we're going yet. So maybe they'll have it there. I'm not sure yet. You know, I like the upfront pricing. I like being able to see how much it's going to be.
We all do.
I like knowing where you're going to go so you can make the
Mhm.
best decision. Like I'm not somebody who is going to be discriminatory towards dropping somebody off. I don't care. Like where you got to go is where you got to go. That's fine with me. It's you know, certain areas that you want to avoid just at certain times. Because you know, I've had run-ins. I'm not sure if you've had some at certain times or not, but um, you know, it's just being smart on that. But knowing where you're going, and then you can kind of coordinate. Okay, well, there's this event that's going on. You know, that I go near the Sabres games, and if they're getting out after a game or something, it's going to be busy. You're going to see some surge. You're going to see some action there. So it's like, okay, well, if I'm taking a ride that's going, you know, 15 minutes the other way, what's the point in that? So you can definitely plan much better. I like it. I think it's great. There's definitely some things that they need to tweak. Like I've seen some people commenting about how like being that it's so much information that you're getting now, it's hard to make that decision, especially if you're on the road and you're driving. You don't want to take your eyes off the road and drive distracted. You want to be, facing the road, seeing what's going on. So, the quick glances of just seeing the price, I think that's what they essentially want you to do, and not actually see the rest of the information.
Right.
Who knows if they're going to adjust that down the road.
Are you talking about seeing the full fare so that you can go like the breakdown so that you're seeing what Uber's taking and whatnot? Because to me, the
So to-
upfront part is good enough for me at this moment. Like you, I know my market.
yeah.
So if I see it's this many miles, I'm going here, this is what I'm doing. I can
Mhm.
just judge if I want that or not. I don't need, I mean, it's always a bummer to me to see what Uber charges anyway,
Oh yeah, for sure.
to actually look at the breakdown, but
On the fare breakdown, I'm not saying that. I'm saying like on the ping screen or the accept screen right away when it pops up for that 6 or 7 seconds or whatever,
right.
trying to see all that information. Some people have been saying it's actually very difficult because some of it's pretty small. So that's where maybe they got to tweak things to make it a little bit bigger. Or, something that would be great is a 10-second timer or a 15-second timer. So if you're driving and you can pull over and look at it for a quick second, or,
Right.
like I said, you can, look down real quick, look up, and look down real quick, back up to make that decision.
Right.
But yeah, I like upfront pricing. I think it's great. The rate rebalancing, though, on the other hand, is a, a slap in the face.
So are you talking about the reduction of per mile and the penny up on the per minute or whatever it
So
is?
instead of having that like level playing field where you know what your rates are,
Right.
instead they're like, all right, short a little bit higher, long a little bit lower. But the question is, how long is a long trip?
Right.
So is it anything over a minimum fare? So are they just boosting the minimum fare? If you're doing that, just boost the minimum fare another $1.50 or something to make it worthwhile for people to actually take them. Um, and then it's like, I mean, if you look at the gas prices, I don't know what it is in your market, but we're seeing anywhere from 3.49 a gallon up to 3.75 a gallon. So you're seeing a big fluctuation depending on where you're driving. I drive a Jeep Grand Cherokee, so that's quite a bit. It's a 24-gallon tank, and I get usually about 20 to 25 miles per gallon, which isn't too bad for that size, but it's still it's eaten into it. So it's like certain times when I would go out, you'll got to limit it more because you just got to be smart when you're going out. But that whole rate rebalancing, if we have a mix between short and long rides, because in Buffalo, New York, we have a much more sprawled out area. So a lot of the suburbs are using it. They're going downtown, and then vice versa, a lot of going downtown back out to the suburbs. So you can get a 15, 20, 25-minute ride, and that's pretty common. But if that's considered a long ride, instead of getting that full fare of whatever it would have been prior to it, they change it. Now you're getting less. So yeah, that whole rate rebalancing, I don't like it at all. They should have just they should have just picked up the top end short rides and then kept it flat rate the rest of the way through. That would have been at least better in my opinion, or just essentially give what drivers want. Raise rates totally.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, they already and that's one of the weird things that you and I are completely familiar with. There, I was talking with Harry about this too. That before the pandemic, it was the race to the bottom. We always said that these companies go and race to the bottom, and they would not raise a price on these customers. And then
Mhm.
they decide in the pandemic, or here, not too far back, maybe 6 months ago or whatever. Hey, let's make the passenger pay 4 times the rate, not as a surge, just let's make it 4 times as much as it used to be or something, kind of thing. And it's like, so you didn't just raise the rate, you multiplied it by like 400%.
Yeah.
Like after all these years of like cutting a penny off Lyft, or Lyft cutting just to undercut the other, just to be that penny cheaper, you've now gone 400% as much to the customer,
Mhm.
and kept our driver per mile rate at a, here in Denver with the reduction. If they move the upfront in and they use that reduction model, that's going to be underneath the standard deduction
Mm.
for
Yeah,
miles.
and that point, it's not even worth it then.
Yeah, I'm at 50. We're at 58 cents here right now.
Oh, wow. So you're just over that limit, that threshold. What is that? I think it's 57 and a half right now?
Yeah, I think, is it this? I can't remember if
Or
it's this year or that it becomes whatever. And is it 57? I thought it was 58. It was going to become.
maybe.
Maybe it is 57 and a half.
I don't remember. I that's
Regardless,
I used
that's
to do
where
that.
I am now. If they take 5 cents off that, I don't even know how the government's gonna be cool with that. Like,
Yeah, I
we're
don't know.
we're
That's
we're we're letting them write off more than they get paid?
yeah, that's wow. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's the other thing. You don't know what rates are in other markets. In our market, Lyft is 71 cents a mile, Uber is 67 cents a mile, and then I think it's 15 cents and 16 cents for per minute, which it's not great. I mean, when I first started, I think it was like $2.05 or something when I was driving to Charlotte. So it was like, yeah, like you said, it's that race to the bottom. And when gas prices were low, a couple of years ago, perfect. It was great. Just before the pandemic, it would go out, make a lot of money, and you'd be okay. Now it's like, yeah, the rates are still the same. Gas prices are ridiculous, and what are you going to do?
Yeah. Well, I know, and that's for me, it's been weird because I cranked them out from like 2015, Lyft maybe 24, late 2014 maybe was when they came to the Denver market, November maybe, and I started with Lyft, oddly, not with Uber,
Mhm.
and I cranked out Lyft for a while, and then Uber came around. I got on the Uber thing too, and then I did that, and then I would kind of worked my way back to Lyft because I don't know if you remember that or if it was for you as well, but a lot of markets, it's kind of this same old story that there was a time when Lyft was moving in a different direction than Uber and doing much cooler things. And I'm not, I got on around the mustache era, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about after that. They kind of like went their own way and the payment was getting better and the way that the drivers were getting paid and I was getting more ride and they just had a better tone
Mhm.
and feel than the Uber model did. But then all of a sudden, once Uber started even talking about that IPO date, which was like a year out at the time, it was like right then Uber started following the exact model of or Lyft started following the exact model of Uber. And it
Yeah,
was
I
like
remember
little
that.
baby brother. And it was like, no, we'll just go this way instead. And I was like, you're doing something, you have to do it different.
Mhm.
Like to me, it's always amazing. Like last week when I heard that, Uber lost whatever, $1.45 a share and Lyft went up. Whenever I hear Lyft goes up, I'm like, how? You guys don't do anything except for rideshare. And like they're talking about having like a third party come in for some food delivery. I'm like, there's nothing behind Lyft.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the only other thing I think in some areas they do some package stuff, and that's really about it. Besides, but yeah, it's the way that their model is just it's pretty much just rideshare. It's not like Uber where they're going into Uber Eats. They have Uber Direct and Connect and all these different avenues that they're looking at. But yeah, it's wild when you come
Right.
down to it.
I
But
know.
then again, I mean, the only other thing I can think of is you don't have the same type of expense as Uber does. As they're trying to maneuver all of those operations, they have a lot more workers, they have a lot more employees, they have a lot more going on when it comes to just their overall, expenditures. But then you look at Lyft, where they're just doing something like rideshare and maybe a little bit of package delivery or something, and that's much less in terms of how much they're looking at spending, and that could play into, some of the like the earnings and earnings per share and things when you break it down.
Yeah. Yeah. I just it's like, but I'm just kind of pointing out, I don't think Lyft is like in anything anymore. They're not in technology. They tried Canada. I think they tried the UK for a minute or tried to get over there. But, it's like they're not in other countries, they're just here, they just do rideshare, they pay the same pretty much same crap wage
Mhm.
as Uber. Um, and it's only like the old schoolers like us who know how to really because I still get, I don't I again, since the pandemic, I haven't done rideshare. However, I'm doing Curry, and I do some Shipt and I do some other models. I'm not a big food delivery person. I don't
Mhm.
know. I know that there's some money to be made there. I'm not, it's just not me.
I'm right there with you. I delivered pizza for 8 years, and
Yeah.
it was great because I was in a small little area and, you go back to the pizzeria and do your thing, but when Uber Eats first came into the area, I was trying it out because they were giving great promotions. It was like 2 or $3 per delivery on top of the fare, just to try to get people to do it. Uh, Problem was it was all fast food. So, like, you had to go to McDonald's and sit there for 20, 25 minutes waiting just to get the food, and I didn't like it at all, and I haven't done it since. So, I did it for about a couple of weeks, and then after that, I just gave up. I'm like, this ain't for me either.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm right there too. But I do like, I mean, like today, I got a unicorn, and whenever it's on a holiday too with curry, it's awesome. So it was it literally I was watching Flex for a minute, and I was just kind of getting up this morning, and I was getting on my work, and then a curry ping came through, and I wasn't even really expecting one today because it was President's Day and my son was home, and then I looked, and I was like, oh, Sherman Williams, and those are always the unicorns anyway because that's their, they got a big contract with them. So I look, and it's like 170 for 15 miles. And it took me about 2 hours to get the whole thing done.
Mhm.
But I mean, that's not, it's, what, $85 an hour.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
I mean, again, it's a unicorn one. And it's because they add a holiday pay on too. Whenever they're even a stupid holiday like this one, in my opinion, anyway. I'm not a big fan. I don't celebrate President's Day. I don't have a barbecue. I don't have friends over. I don't take the day off. I
Mhm.
still do my thing, and it means nothing to me. But I guess whatever. But anyway, so I guess I am happy with it today because it added probably $50 to that order. Probably still would have been high. It would have been like 120, but it's those Sherman Williams runs. I'm surprised you don't do curry too.
You know what? I gotta look into that actually. Um, now that everything's good to go, my Jeep was out of commission for a little while, but
Okay.
now everything actually just got it back, and then it died again. But after that comes back, I'll probably look into that because I don't mind doing that type of stuff. That's fun.
I love it, man. And I just have an SUV too. I don't have a truck.
Mhm.
So I'm just using a RAV4. So it's not much different than what you're doing.
Oh yeah, pretty much practically the same size around.
Yeah.
Just
And I
fold down the
mean,
seats and
and especially with you on the East Coast, man, you guys get more Sherman Williams runs than I do even. And here in
probably.
Denver, Curry's pretty big, but a lot of it's like Ferguson plumbing and stuff like that. So I'll take good run, and they always pay good. I mean, I always make sure that it's round trip, whatever the round trip is, that even counting my miles back, that it's $1.50 to $2 a mile.
Okay.
And that's counting the miles to get back to home too.
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to look into that more. It was pretty much just doing Uber and Lyft as a rideshare. To me, I thought it was fun just hanging out with some people and meeting people, and then slowly but surely it started getting a little weird for a little while there, and then the pandemic hit, and since then, yeah, same thing. I've been real limited on the amount that I go out and that. So um, it's just I don't know, but
Yeah.
looking at other options too. And unfortunately, in our market, there's not a lot of things. But when we move, when we do the full move, probably look into a few others just to kind of give it a try and see what other options are out there besides. And I tried Instacart for a little while, and it was okay. It's not my cup of tea though. Going and kind of shopping and doing all that because I hate shopping for the wife too, and
Yeah.
so it wasn't not my kind of thing, but I like being behind the wheel more than anything.
Yeah, I do too. And I don't mind going to those warehouses and dealing, that's kind of, I don't mind that cardboard smell when I go in. And that's kind of my scene actually. It
Mhm.
works for me. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
so what's up, Pedro? What's up, Marissa? What's up, Faith? You
what's
guys,
going on, everybody?
I honestly thought this was at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight, and I even had it scheduled on YouTube that way. I don't know why. And then it came through. I had a courier order this morning. I'm just telling these guys real quick that I had a courier order this morning, and I just ran out the door because it was a unicorn one. Came back and it said Zoom alert, and it said you're live with Chris, and I was like, wait, what? Not till tonight. And then so we decided not Zoom. Came on to StreamYard and did this live, and this was all a little bit of a mismatch that was supposed to come out tonight. So no, nobody's used to me doing something in the morning, but I guess it's a President's Day thing. So,
Yeah,
um,
well,
but yeah. Thanks for dropping by, everybody, and again, thanks to Chris for coming in. So yeah, speaking of the new model, what about the because Gary Middleton and I were talking this weekend about um the rate is it the radar?
oh, trip radar.
Yeah, the trip
Yeah.
radar. I mean, that thing does look stupid. I just have to say it. I mean, like how it works, even like it reminds me of the round robin that Courier uses. It's like it's throwing out an order that's going to throw out anyway. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm wondering if it'll be kind of like the crappy rides that people are just kind of passing by, and they're trying to put those crappy rides into a pool or something, with all the data they've collected. I don't really know. Um, some of the things I've seen in comments I've seen from people saying that it's like the Instacart batches when people are trying to get batches back in, just around the beginning of the pandemic when everything was shutting down, but Instacart was like blowing up.
Yeah.
People were trying to select it and it was going away. But beyond that, I mean, I haven't, like I said, I don't have it in my market, so I haven't seen it personally. So I'm not sure if it's, giving just junk rides, if they're good rides, if there's plenty in there or what. But yeah, it's a weird concept because the whole thing was they're trying to pair you with a driver as quick as possible from the customer
Exactly.
end. But yet, if you're sitting there in the pool, then you're not going anywhere. So I don't know if it's something that they're gonna have on the customer side where it's like the wait and save that Lyft has. If they're gonna do something like that on the customer end where they do like a wait and save for Uber, I'm not really sure.
Yeah. No, I think it's weird because Gary was showing me his screenshots and it was saying like a little number up in the corner too. So we were trying to figure out what that was, and it seems to be like the people that were put into the round robin. It's like it's like almost like three people have viewed this.
Hmm.
And it's like, well then why are you throwing like I just don't get it. I don't get like on top of the Uber model that directly pings somebody and gives them the option. Why are you putting this out there? Maybe it's just a test to see if people will just blindly grab rides. I don't know.
Yeah,
Because I know
maybe.
there's a speed thing to it too. I know they go away real quick.
Yeah, because everybody in your area that's online that's looking at that has the same access. So it's not like 4 drivers are getting a particular ride, and out of those 4, somebody gets it's I think anybody who's in that general vicinity, within a certain distance or time frame or something, is actually seeing it. So the only other thing I can think of is if it's something that they're trying to sneak past by saying, "Hey, look, this is, the rides that we're offering the drivers, and they're the ones who get to accept if they wanna, pick and choose what they wanna take." So it could just be kind of something that they're planning for in the near future if there's, some sort of legislation or something that is looked at and, trying to challenge.
Well, yeah, and there is. That's this is another I mean, because I deal with that stuff all the time. I'm always talking about independent contractorship and all these. I'm going to start calling them viruses. These house bills that are out there that are just trying to be another AB5.
Mhm.
And it's just crazy to me to take away the rights and make us employees. And I don't. And most of the people I won't say everybody, but most of the people I think who fight for that stuff don't really understand what will happen and what that world would look like.
Oh, yeah.
um yeah, I just don't. I mean, I don't think everybody wants to work for these. I mean, why would you want to work as a W-2 or a franchise employee for Uber?
Yeah.
If I was
And
going to go
then
take a W-2 job, if I was going to do that, Uber would be the last company I would take a W-2 job with.
oh, yeah, because they're gonna pay a minimum wage, and they're gonna try like,
And they're
what's
gonna
the
fire
national.
you when they want because they have
Yeah.
unlimited resource of drivers. They would start then using it would backfire. It would be like we always complain about markets, being oversaturated. Well, they would become perfectly saturated.
Mhm.
So they would whittle it down to the best drivers, and you also wouldn't be able to deny or I mean, people are like, well, I'll just sit on my couch and you can't cherry pick from your couch if you're an employee.
Nope.
I don't know a W-2 employee who works at 7-Eleven that can just call it in.
Yeah.
Like
So
just put a cardboard picture of me there standing there with a broom or something.
no, not
Yeah,
only that, it's like, well, if the boss tells you to go somewhere and do something, you gotta go somewhere and do something, but
yeah,
for right now, you get to kind of pick and choose, "Oh, yeah, I wanna take that ride, I don't wanna take that ride." Same thing with delivery, I wanna take it or not.
yeah,
Um, so there is, but then again, it's very guided. Like, they don't give you a lot of information in order to be able to, maneuver the waters to make the best decisions necessarily, unless, you've been kinda doing it for a while. Like, new people, they're just gonna click on accept, 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 and, You know, if they're losing $25 at the end of the night, even though it says that they've made 150, it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're gonna come to real quick and, you know, leave. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a weird thing for sure.
So
But
this is from Pedro saying that he's seen the same trip in radar queue come up in regular rideshare. But that is
now my question is, Pedro, are you seeing the trip radar before it comes to you in terms of like the ping screen after the fact, or is it that you got the ping and then you're seeing it in the trip radar after that? If you could kind of clarify that, because that would kind of it would make sense if it was coming in as a regular ride, somebody denied it, and then it went to that trip radar thing, so then people could kind of choose. Um, that would kind of make sense, I guess. But if it comes in the other way, that would be weird because it automatically they go into that pool versus going to a potential driver.
the number is the amount of people that can see the trip rate. That's exactly Pedro. That's what Gary, I think Pedro was actually on with Gary and I. We were all screwing around this weekend. Like 10 of us were on a stream yard or something, but we were talking about that. The number up in that corner is the number of people that have seen it. And that's what I didn't get either, is like, so they're looking at it and they're going, I don't want it.
Probably.
So it's
Or
almost like, unlike like accepting it, it's like a bunch of people can view it until one says I'll take it.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Beyond that, I don't know. Unless I, like I said, unless I can see it in action, kind of like play around with it.
That's what it looked like to me. It looked
But
like it would say like 2 or 5 or something. And that's if you click it real quick. And that was, that meant like that 5 people had looked at it. So it's like, okay, well, 5 people said no to this. Why am I going to say yes?
mhm.
So
Unless
that,
it's like,
but from what I've been told, you have to be quick with this radar thing too, that, they get grabbed real quick. So it's like, I just don't get it. I don't get where it's,
yeah, unless
it's
that's
always
live
best
view
to
count.
position the closest driver to the passenger. What are you doing with this radar?
Yeah. Well,
You
like I
know?
said, I mean, the only other thing, that number in the corner, maybe it's not the amount of times it's been passed through, but maybe it's the amount of live viewers who are viewing the trip radar screen at the moment. So it could say like 5 people are looking at that ride or have looked at the ride. Beyond that, I don't know. I mean, unless you literally had 2 phones and were able to kind of go back and forth between them, or a couple of people going back and forth and actually sitting there and seeing what that was. I got nothing.
Um, this is from earlier. Pedro said, "Chris is my boss."
A little bit.
I didn't know you had a boss, Pedro. I thought you were an independent contractor, bro.
The
Um,
rideshare guy, I guess.
right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, oh, so it's you and Pedro kind of both together go to Harry, or you're kind of you kind of handle the food part with Pedro.
Well, I'm the YouTube manager now over on
Oh,
Harry's channel.
for all of it. Okay.
Yeah, so I kind of send out all the videos and everything to our different contributors and
Even the
oh,
stuff he does and stuff or
mhm.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
okay.
anything not on his channel, he's full reign. It's up to him, but yeah,
Right.
for our videos
You're
on
talking about real rideshare stories, not rideshare guy.
well, I'm the YouTube manager on the rideshare guy
Okay.
as well, and then I have my channel, which I had started before even
Right,
doing
right, right, right.
anything with
That's what I was saying. I know you're the manager for your channel, but I didn't for Harry's you are too, but you're saying, oh, you're just saying that Harry can do whatever he wants, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
well, and then Pedro on Pedro's channel, he can make the content that he wants. But
Right.
when Pedro's on the rideshare guy as a contributor or any of the others, we're him and I or and whoever's working, we go back and forth with the topics and that, and then they pretty much have
Gotcha.
full reign on the video itself. So
Yeah. Yeah. Here is what let's see what he says about this. I saw trip radar, and then the same trip came up as a regular Uber X. My guess is, Pedro, is that nobody took the radar. That it came
yeah,
up as a radar, and like 4 or 5 people bounced in there and they said no. I don't
Mhm.
want this. And then it just went, and then it got pinged out.
Yeah, from what I heard, that's what's supposed to happen. It's gonna stay in there for a finite time before it gets kicked out. The whole thing, though, I wanna know is what constitute a ride to go into the pool to begin with? Like, how does a ride actually go into that trip radar versus it just going to a driver right off the bat or, you know.
I would have to see maybe somebody, if anybody in the chat is on the rider side and has by any chance even used Uber rider app lately and has seen, maybe it's like a not pool, not like Uber pool, but like maybe it's the cheaper way. Like, are you willing to wait a little longer? Because if the radar is going out, it's not taking the closest driver.
Yeah. It's kinda like
So
I'm wondering if it's like that wait and save that Lyft
yeah,
has.
exactly. Like, yeah, like, hey, this is the discount ride. Are you willing to just kind of wait for a long time?
Yeah, I don't
There's
know.
a driver near you, but would you be cool if we send one from across town?
Yeah.
Like,
And then we're gonna pay him about 15% less just because we're constituting as a longer trip. Ugh,
no boss
yeah,
for
no
me.
boss for him.
We knew that, Pedro, but um, yeah, I don't know. So what have you found this year? Because you're always putting out videos. What have you found so far this year in this calendar year to be different, better, worse?
Um, Honestly, I think, people are kinda stepping away from rideshare, it seems, and kinda going towards other avenues, whether it's food delivery or, even
Last
other
mile
apps that are coming out.
services and
Yep. I think that the Uber and Lyft kinda opened the door for these other opportunities to come by, and other apps and other services and companies are kinda saying, "Hey, you know what? We can use that type of model," and so I think more and more people are kinda, going out into more different opportunities. So that's kinda, I think, the big thing. I mean, even
but
even though.
how so I guess the reason that I put that question out there was because like here in Denver, it's taken us a long time to get to. I mean, we're finally at no masks. You don't need a mask anywhere. You don't need to do you can you I mean, maybe at a doctor's office, kind of those kind of things, but like we don't care anymore.
Mhm,
We just don't care. It's kind of like take you do you and we're just all gonna live.
mhm,
And so I know that a lot of people got very comfortable with work from home, but here in Denver, work from home isn't going to be a model that's going to last forever. So people are back at work.
mhm.
So how is rideshare not way back up?
Um,
Because though I mean, I got to tell you, here in Denver, a lot of people don't have a car. All kinds of different scenarios where they don't take public transportation or a bus or anything like that. They rely on these services, and
I
now
mean,
what are they doing?
well, they're gonna adjust cabs, but I mean, in our market, it doesn't seem like it's too much different in that aspect. Things still kind of seem similar. I think it's just, I mean, again, each place is going to vary, and who's going out as a driver is going to vary. Who's getting a ride is going to vary. Um, you know, just in our market, we're having a NFT bus shortage, so they're actually canceling routes in different parts of the city. And the people that use those services, what are they going to do now? Well, they're going to have to either go to cabs or ride share.
Right.
So, I mean, it could be, it could help. But I think some people are still kind of like just hanging out and staying at home more so. I know here there's still more people that are working from home, even though certain places have sort of reopened. They haven't reopened fully, as businesses. I mean, so like certain places you can't have like guests or people coming in unless it's just people who are working there. So I mean, I think that might be keeping it limited. Same thing also now, right now, it's the January, February timeframe, so there's not a lot going on. So rideshare probably isn't much higher than what it is, like, say, from years past at this time. Um, but I mean, going into the springtime, especially around here, it'll probably pick up pretty decently.
Which even makes less sense. Why would people would need ride? I agree with you because I've been doing this for years too. I think this. I always tell people that the holidays you got to call those on your own by your market. But after the new year, kind of early, still a little bit. But I always say that between Martin Luther and today, President's Day, it's just dead. It's like if you could take a month off or 3 weeks off every year, that's what you should take off as a gig
Mhm.
worker if that's what you do.
Yep.
I mean, I
100%.
would almost say that across the board to every market.
Yep.
That's the time period you take off, end of January to just about now in February, because there's nothing going on.
Mhm. Yeah, and
I
I
mean,
mean, I think a lot of it has to do with hibernation mode. Like, recently I'm just like I'm tired and I feel beat. I mean, granted, I was moving too, but
right,
just feeling beat. It's like I just want to like hang out by the couch and just watch some TV and kind of relax a little bit, hang with the kids, and that's really about it. But I don't know if
right.
it's that hibernation mode, lack of kind of anything. And then yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot of things going on. Weekends are going to be insane. So like no matter what weekend it is, it's going to be busy for the most part when going out. At least in my market, you go
Right,
out on
right,
Friday,
right.
Saturday night. Our bars are open till 4 a.m. If you go out, usually start around 8 p.m. Sometimes a little earlier, sometimes a little later, but usually on average right around 8. And sometimes I'll go home around 3 if there's a ride that's going closer to my house, and then I'm just like, "You know what? I don't really feel like going out any further." Um, Sometimes you might stay out till, like, 5 in the morning. You'll clear a good amount of money, and again, that's on the weekends, but throughout the rest of the time, yeah, there's not a lot going on. Even though people might not wanna go to or, like, just kinda going from work to and from work, they might be looking at other options. Maybe a friend or something is taking them. Maybe they're carpooling besides. But without the other events that are going on or other things, I think that's going to help keep it like the demand a little bit lower. But
So have you I know that you're like me with the Instacart thing. I absolutely, and Pedro fully agrees with us too. I think the three of us might be the three most people who hate Instacart the most, maybe, from how you just made it sound too. I know Pedro does, and he kind of did it the same way I did, according to Hannibal. That Hannibal told him, "Oh, you got to try Instacart," and he did, and then he was like, "What is this?" And I was kind of the same way. I did a shipped Instacart challenge, and in my market, I can make money with shipped, but I couldn't do any. Even I was just looking at them. Even from the first minute I turned Instacart on, I
mm,
was like, "You can't." I mean, my initial 1 minute on the app, I was already like, "Can't make money." I was looking at these, and just from what I know about it and whatnot, I was looking at it going, "What is this?" And they're stacked, and it's like,
mhm,
the Instacart basic, it was like 60 items. You're gonna make like $6. It's gonna take you like an hour and a half. I'm like, what is this? There's no tip. They're the $7 minimum. I don't know. I was just beyond blown away. And I tried a couple, but they were just so awful. But Shipt has
yeah,
been okay to me. Curry's been good to me. And some other apps. Do you even play with the other apps at all?
not really. Like I said, I did it. I tried Instacart once, and I'm like, no."
Right, but none of the others?
I like mostly Uber and Lyft. I did sign up for DoorDash, but I never did anything with it. I think
Right,
because Uber Eats kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. Uh,
right.
I'm just like, I don't really want to go and sit at wait restaurants if it's not ready. I like to kind of get up and go and just continually be moving. I don't want to go to there, sit and wait because then I start getting anxious. I'm like, come on, let's move it. And so like that aspect. But yeah, I was gonna look at TaskRabbit and stuff. Um, and also, now I wanna look at Curry just because I don't mind those types of things. Those to me are fun in itself because I don't mind going like, I'm like you, I like going to the warehouses. You can talk to the people and hang out while you're waiting for the order and then,
Exactly.
getting it, and
And it's
usually
not
it's
like
kind
standing at Chipotle with a bunch of dashers and, like, just waiting for a bag to come up on a rack while these people are sweating and on you. You're talking
right.
with, like, blue collar workers that are just
Mhm.
cool,
Yeah,
and
and
they're
they're a
not
lot
like,
of
"Why are
fun.
you here?" They're like, you pull up to the right loading dock and stuff, and they're just like, they're just cool. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't mind the waiting in those kind of situations. They have coffee out and stuff. They're like, "You want some coffee?"
Mhm.
It's like,
Yeah, and
"Alright,
it's
man."
so much more laid back too in terms like restaurants, you hear some of the horror stories that drivers have to deal with the employees or the boss manager there, and it's just I don't need that added stress.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, most of the time I kind of stuck with Uber and Lyft just because it was different. I don't mind the people in the car for the for the most part. I do enjoy the interaction. Having people come in and kind of seeing what their life is for the 10, 15 minutes that they're in the car. It can get quite interesting to say the least. And the things that people do talk about when there's a complete stranger in the car, it's crazy, and that's kinda how I came up with the channel, when it
Especially
comes
no
down to it.
especially nowadays when all of them know the dash cam's running. I fully agree with you, and I'm always like, "Dude, you guys know this is running. You know I'm sitting up here," and I just think they're just like, "I don't care. We've needed" they come to Denver for a vacation, you pick them up at the hotel, you're taking them back to the airport, so you got them in the car for a half hour, and they
Mm,
maybe have been around other family or friends or whatnot, and they've been, like, just waiting with to tell this one person, like, all the bad stuff that, "Oh my god, can you believe what she oh my" and all that kinda stuff starts coming out, and it comes out quick because 'cause they're going to the airport, so it's like you
mhm,
hear all of it.
yep.
It's like you're engulfed into their I mean, I gotta say more often than not, because 'cause I'll engage in any passenger that engages with me. I love
Mm,
it. I'm fine.
yeah,
I was a bartender for many years. I like being like that, but I also am fine with being quiet, especially if it's getting weird.
mhm,
I just try and shut off and just drive and do my thing, but,
yep.
um
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because everybody will ask, like, "How do you know if somebody wants to talk or not?" It's real simple. You ask the question, like, "Hey, how's the day going?" If they give
right.
you okay, and then that's it, they don't wanna talk. If they wanna talk, they'll talk later, and I've had that happen a couple of times, but
Right,
again,
or
it's
yeah, you're confirming their name, and you're like, "Hey, how's your day?" And they're like, "Good," and they sit down just right to their phone,
mhm.
and they're like this, and you can just tell they don't wanna talk to you.
Yep, and you just pick that cue up, and then it's like, "Alright, well, I'm just driving, I'm doing my thing, I'm happy,
Mhm.
listening to music, and, I'm making some money," and then if they wanna chat and talk, then that's cool. The only thing that's annoying is when people are talking and they're like, it's like things that you just, like, you don't wanna talk about, like politics or anything like that, religion, where you get those people that just talk, and it's like, "No, please stop." And I just sit
Right.
there and I'm like, "Yep, okay." Like,
Yeah,
no matter what.
yeah, yeah, so I don't know, what about during the pandemic? Were you how much were you driving during the pandemic?
For the most part, not at all. I pretty much stopped. Um,
But when did you consider it not stop? When did you start back up then?
it was more recently. It was just to kind of get back out there and try it again and see, see how things are going. So to me right now, it's still very limited. I mean, I was always driving part time. Usually it was around 20, 25 hours or so beforehand, like before the pandemic, and then
Mhm.
after it's much more limited. Mostly, well, because I have my second child that was born a little over a year ago, so it was.
Uh,
A lot of issues there with the pregnancy and just him as a baby. So at least I was able to take the time there. And then, as they start getting older uh, and kind of grown up, that kind of allowed it to take a little bit more. But with gas prices where they're at right now, it's like, all right, you got to be a little bit more pickier than on when you're going out. So it's like usually only on the weekends at this moment. If other things are going on, like big events or something, then maybe at that point. But yeah, it's a much more limited capacity right now.
you're more just testing it out. You're more
Yep.
just feeling the waters, seeing how it
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
working when it's a total surge or something.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
right now it's kinda at that point where, it can go one of 2 ways. So, like, it seems like riders are starting to get a little bit more entitled now than before. And then, just the craziness with still having to wear masks in an Uber and Lyft and all that. It's like, all right, I'm kinda over that already. If I'm gonna get sick, I'll get sick. That's my thought. And,
Yeah,
um,
how are you I mean, I know how a lot of other drivers are dealing with it. What are you doing about that? How do you conduct it? Like, if I came up and I don't have a mask on,
I don't care,
you don't say anything.
honestly.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm wondering because that's how most of the drivers I know, that most of them
Yeah.
are at that point. They're just like
Yeah.
they have that their mask on, and if the other person if the person getting in doesn't, they just take it off instead of at the
Mhm.
beginning of the pandemic when it was actual fist fights and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like, "Put your mask on." "No, well, you have to." I heard
Mhm.
some pretty bad horror stories, it's, especially during the pandemic, like those drivers who drive XL and stuff, and we're still getting good rates and it was still worth it. They were
Mhm.
getting into like major brawls with people who would, especially people who would have the mask, get into the car and then take it off 5 minutes into the ride. Like
Mhm.
you're on the highway and they take it off. Now what?
Yeah.
And I'm talking at the point when everybody was scared,
Mhm.
like
Oh yeah,
May,
people
June,
spitting on 'em.
July 2020.
Yep. And then you hear the people who are spitting on them for saying wear a mask and all that, and it's like, yeah, at this point, I'm like way over that, and they even here, like everywhere else, you don't have to really wear one unless it's like a specific location, which is nice. You don't have to deal with all that. But like even in the car, it's like you get in, cool. I mean,
Right.
if you're not wearing it, I don't care. If you are, that's fine. It's the whole thing. Like I don't necessarily want to be wearing it though the whole time, for especially that long, and um, it's just kind of a pain. So it's like you don't know if the rider that's coming in is going to be cool or not. So it's like, yeah, it's one of those things where you gotta flip it up if you got it or not. So it's just like, all right, can we move on with that yet?
You know, I don't know how your market is, but here when we switched, because Denver went from mask everywhere to, okay, here's our new you got a mask when you walk into a restaurant, and then we'll seat you, and as soon as you're seated you can take it off, but just as you walk by the server station you have to wear it, and you have to wear it here and you have to wear it there, and you don't outside but you do here. There were so many rules that didn't make any sense, and people were following them for a while. But now, I even in my son's 15 years old, I see a bad habit going on. What's up, Omer? What's up, Nick?
Up
um
over.
I see a bad habit going on, that like even like my son and I will go, we'll walk over to get tacos or something. We'll come out of the place after we eat, and we're outside, and we're 4 blocks, 5 blocks from our house. We're walking back to the house, and 2 blocks in, I'll notice he still has his mask on.
Mhm.
And I'm like, hey, take your, and it's like, oh, like our society's gotten to a point where we're just not even aware anymore. So I was glad that Denver's finally, even our schools, like next, I don't know why they planned it ahead of time, but next week, not this week, but next week, his school stops masking.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. It's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna wait a week. You
Right.
have to wear it now, but on this date, you don't have to anymore. Like that doesn't make any sense. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, it pretty much that was the same thing here. You had to, like, I don't know, if you're below a certain area, apparently it doesn't affect you. So if you're sitting, it's okay. But if you stand up, you better watch out. So like they did that. They did two mask mandates here. Uh, the first one was the wild one. That was like from, I want to say, like April all the way through to almost the summer of this past year, and then they restarted the mask mandate. Um, I think in, I want to say October or November maybe, and then it just went away about 2 weeks ago or so. So thankfully it did. But yeah, it's the wildest thing because it's like those exact same rules all over the place, and it's like, how does that even make sense?
I know. Well, my guess is the logistics of it. Like Boulder isn't the same as Denver. We're 30 miles apart. Boulder hasn't lifted their restrictions.
Mm,
They still have, you need to pretty much wear a mask everywhere. You need to
mm.
wear a mask in the store. You need to wear a mask everywhere. Here, it's like nobody wears a mask anywhere anymore. In fact, it's almost like people look at you strange, like, dude, you're supposed to take that off now. We don't do that anymore.
Oh my god,
So,
it's so true. That like that's one thing I love doing. I love people watching when I'm out. You see that. It's like you if somebody wasn't wearing a mask when the policy was, they would get dirty looks for not wearing a mask because they're not conforming with everybody. And then it's the flip side when everybody's not wearing a mask and somebody is, you're like, what are you doing?
right. I know exactly. Before it was like, dude, I mean, we had police at our King Supers,
Mhm.
at our
Oh,
grocery
jeez.
store, standing there, just, hey, make sure your mask is on. And then all of a sudden it was like, I mean, I remember one time walking into King Supers, and as I was walking in, the announcement that came over was like, whether, everybody, employees, customers, vaxxed, unvaxxed, everybody must wear a mask. And the cop was still there. The cop had it on the chin style mask. He had pulled it down. It's not over his mouth or his nose. It's just around his chin. He's typing on his phone. Nobody that works there has a mask, and nobody in the store has a mask. And this is when the masking was still in place. You had to mask.
Uh-huh.
But this was right before it stopped. It was like people were going, no. I'm walking in just laughing, like you're saying, people watching, and I'd watch it and I'd hear it. I'd hear this, and I'd look around and be like, I'm the only one with a mask on. And I'd take it off. It would be like the reminder saying I need one was the reminder to take it off.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like you guys haven't re-recorded the new recording that says we don't need it. Like I was the moron, because people were looking at me like, why do you have a mask on? You're scaring people. Take it off. Like,
yeah, it's so wild how like that flip just immediately, because again, yeah, like you were saying, even in stores where people weren't wearing masks, they were getting like knocked out and stuff, and there were fights and things like that. It's more so at the beginning versus more recently, but still, it was wild to see how the social engineering of everything is going on.
I know. And that's why, especially for rideshare, I think that they need to have something where, again, we're independent contractors. Don't make it a rule that you have to be masked, but leave it up to the contractor and say, like, there should have been a way for drivers to say whether they require masking or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, put a little option that you check that you want
every time you sign on.
Mask,
are you going to require a mask today?
Yeah.
Yes. Because maybe you're feeling not sick, maybe you're feeling just a little like burnt out though, and your system's just maybe a little easier to catch a virus, maybe not even COVID, but something. And you just you're like, yeah, you know what, I do. So give them the option every day, but there should have been that. It should have been what's up, Jim Jones?
Jim Jones in the house. What's up?
But yeah, I mean, it should have been an option that said, do you want this or not? Because that did cause, like you said, a lot of almost fist fight type style stuff. I mean, there were drivers fist fighting passengers, and then you had people coming out of bars, and they made real problems. I know for driver friends of mine, like who they won't get bullied around. They were like, put your mask on. It's like, no, man. It's like, Jesus, this is my car, dude.
Yep.
I know that you paid $8 for a ride, but this is my car.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to make the decisions here. And I think that every driver at this point would just say, listen, masked, unmasked, whatever, because we are where we are. If you're not going to convince if people, and I don't care either way, but if you got vaccinated or not, if that's your decision at this point, if you haven't, you're not gonna. Like, I don't know where they think that these people are who are going to go, you know what? I think I'm going to get vaxxed now.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I just don't think there's a person going, it's been 2 years and I think I've changed my mind on the whole thing. Give me the vax.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
You might get a couple of people that were on the fence because they're like, I want to wait some time just to see how everybody is. You might get those few, but for the most part, the remaining, yeah, they're not going to. And for the people that are, they are, and that's good. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Can we all move on now?
Right. I mean, yeah, and also I think that maybe you're right in the term of that some people might do it for work reasons too.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might want a job and they're like, you need to be vaxxed.
Mm-hmm.
And they might even go get like, okay, I don't want to be, but I'll get vaxxed because I want this job.
Now, let me ask you, if they let's just say, if they required it for these apps, what would you say for that? I'm not asking if you are or anything.
Right. No, I would actually have a problem with that because that breaks the independent contractor deal.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
I mean, that I would have a big problem with that because I would say, listen, this is my car, this is my business. If you say wear a mask, okay, like we've been doing that for Uber and Lyft rides as it is, but I don't, and I think even everybody can agree we've all been back and forth on this thing. do the masks even do any good?
Mhm.
I mean, so it's like, I would have a big problem with that, because I don't think that, I think we're going to see a lot of things that people are barely talking about yet. I think we're going to see a lot of bankruptcies that are going to happen now. I think we're going to see a lot. I mean, we're already starting to, but I think we're going to start hearing about more and more and more and more mental problems.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that some real damage has been done.
Mhm.
Not
Oh,
just
absolutely.
psychologically from the masks and whatnot, just the whole pandemic now, and the way the government's been back and forth. And I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I'm just saying there's been some real damage done. It's time to get back to
Mhm.
life. And that's why
Yeah.
I'm glad here in Denver we are. It's like, I'm glad that people are finally looking at me if I have a mask on and going, we don't do that anymore. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, okay,
That's a
cool,
good
man.
sign.
Like, you know, I always have it in my pocket and I'm always ready. But even when I did that curry run today, I went to a place. Yeah, usually I'm doing plumbing or other places that I know where I'm going, but I was over getting some like tiles or whatever. And when I pulled up there, I'm like, I walk in and I'm like, oh, I'll put my mask on. I put it on, and there was like two forklifts and like the check-in guy right here, and like everybody doesn't have a mask on. They're just staring at me like, what are you doing?
Mhm.
Like almost like I was robbing them. Like like 2.5 years ago, if I walked into a place with a mask, they'd be like, "Here's the money." Like,
Yeah, especially the
it's
bandanas.
but it's I don't know. It's they all looked at me the other way, and I'm liking that, but I think we've done a lot of psychological damage.
Oh, yeah. Especially, my thoughts are with kids.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the whole thing with social cues and learning speech, and all that stuff. It's like that was probably the worst. And then the whole thing is, I mean, we can Monday morning quarterback all day long, but it's like you got to ask at some point and say, at what point are we causing more harm doing it one way versus another way? And did they actually really make any difference whatsoever in the grand scheme of things? Uh,
right,
you know, where it would have like the whole thing was what was it? The first 2 weeks was flatten the curve for hospitals, and then like just recently it spiked even higher, and it's like, well, there were less restrictions now than there were back then, and everything seems to be a-okay, at least from what I've seen and stuff. I mean, some people have gotten really sick and things like that, but um, it's just like I think at this point it's decision time. Like
yeah.
if you're scared and you want to be, then fine, but turn off the news and try to live your life.
Right. I mean, I know nurses who got laid off. I know nurses who quit from being overworked. I know a lot of that medical profession. I'm going to just speak openly here about the hospitals. I'm sick of hearing about the hospitals being full, because here's the deal. A 4-story hospital, if it's full because 2 stories are closed,
Mhm.
because they have half of the staff now.
Yep.
So they're only full because they have no staff. And I don't even think even then they're full.
Mhm.
I mean, I mean, and Omicron is, I mean, I've had COVID twice. I mean, the first time was pretty rough, and that was in the very beginning, and it was very rough on me actually. But the second time I had it, it was like a cold.
Mhm.
I mean, I had it for like a weekend, and then like a little drag for a couple weeks after, but nothing huge. And my son, we think he had it, but he had it for like a weekend too. He was at his buddy's house a couple weeks ago, and it was Omicron, and his buddy tested positive for it the Sunday after a Friday night sleepover. And then so I was like, oh crap. And so we got him tested. He didn't have it, but he was sick. And I was like, I think you just have the flu. I mean, it's so hard to even tell what's going on now. It's like,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
like,
'cause
what's the flu? It's like, it's the thing that was before a pandemic.
yeah.
Everybody'd get this thing called the flu.
It's
And
like everything else is like, "Oh, wait, no, there's a new big boy in town, and we're gonna sit back, and we're not gonna take the you can take it,
right.
Mr. COVID-19." It's like, I mean, yeah, it's wild. It really is when it comes down to it, and, I don't know if I've gotten sick, like, I had a couple of the symptoms, but I never was, like, knocked on my ass or anything. I was, you know, perfectly fine the whole time. I might go get like an antibody test just to see, but um, you know, I know quite a few people around me who were sick and had it, but it's like, all right, I think at this point I can make the choice, and I have been. It's like if I get sick, I get sick. I
Yeah.
don't want to get sick, but I don't want to like, you know,
Live
stay
in
away from
fear.
people to the point where I'm not getting any attack on my immune system because you want that to happen. You want that
Exactly. We've all been
because
locked up in our houses for years now.
yeah,
And so it's like when people get sick, it's like, oh, you have Omni or you have this or that. It's like, we're just getting sick again, guys, because we're
yeah,
being around people. Like, when you're around people, I mean, I hate to say this, but think about before the pandemic, how everybody'd be sick and they'd go out still. They'd go to a concert, they'd go to a bar. They'd go to a bar sick without a mask and sit right next to you and
mhm,
have drinks and what I mean, they didn't care.
and they're
People were going
coughing, they're
out sick all the
sneezing, and
time.
yep,
And this
and
is
then
why the flu would be passed and whatnot. This is just
and
what happens.
oh, the best part, I don't like, recently, I've gone down this weird rabbit hole of, you know, seeing the crazy things that bosses are saying and, you know, the whole "I quit" movement and all that stuff, you know, reading some of the articles on that and just some of the highlights of what people have been saying on, like, Reddit and, you know, different areas. One of the things was, how they said that they called up their boss to say that they weren't coming in because they tested positive for COVID, and the boss said, "Okay, and you can still get here." So it's like, "Okay then."
Right. Yeah. So okay, before we wrap this up, I do want to ask you one thing. So what are you thinking? So by, let's say, let me just throw a date. By like May, in a few like 2, 3 months out now, do you think that rideshare will be back in any kind of form that people will be? Do you think that some of these new methods they're trying, because you and I have seen Uber and Lyft try things for a month or in 5 markets for 6 months and then not try it in other markets because it was a failure. Things like that happen all the time.
Mhm,
Do you think that what's up, Tony? Do you think that we're going back to Uber's trying to find like even this upfront pricing is a great move. You and I both agreed on that. That's a great move because we want to see everything. But you
mhm,
think it's going to get to a point where we can get our earnings back up a little? I mean, I've been telling people forever that dude, Uber doesn't work that way. They work the other way. They try and not pay you.
yep,
So, however, I know how to make some money on Uber when I need to, if I need to, kind of thing. I still
mhm,
know how to do it. I still know the places to be, the fishing spots. I know where to go. I know what to do. If I had to go turn on right now, I would know where to go, what to do to make the best of this time of day.
mhm.
Probably more than most of the drivers here. However, do you think it's going to get back to a point where not like the good old days where it's like just tearing through money, but do you think it's going to get to a point with maybe, is there any hope in your eyes? I mean, you do a lot of reporting on this. Is there any hope in your eyes that we're going to get back to any kind of a driver can earn on the platform again?
Um, through the means without Surge or, you know, Lyft's new Surge, um, probably not. And you know, gas price, because of gas prices going so high, because parts are going so high, basically everything's more expensive, but you got 0% gain in rates. So if you couple something like Surge and you know, more, some sort of raise there, or some sort of promotion going on, I think that's pretty much the only way you could potentially make money on a larger scale. Minus drivers who know the market, know when to go out, know where, they're still going to make money no matter what. But for the grand scheme of things, I really don't know. I mean, it's very bleak when I look out and like try to forecast. The biggest thing is you have the upfront pricing, you have the pickup and drop off, you know where you're going, and there's no acceptance rate tied to it. But we know what happened in California where they had that and there was no, you got in 100% of your rides. Now it's the 5-10 rule. So you have
Right.
to accept 50% of your last of your last X amount of rides. So 5
Right.
out of 10, 2 out of 4, whatever it is.
They get they they do get a little bit of the Prop 22 money though.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
that,
they
I
do
mean,
get some little extra perks and kicks here and there, but
yeah, so that aspect's a little bit different. Even Seattle is much different too, because the way that their laws are put into place. But for the grand scheme of things beyond it, oh, and New York City, completely
mhm,
different piece there. But when it comes to the grand scheme of things, I mean, I have a feeling that drivers are going to start really seeing like, okay, that's not going to be worth it, and do I want to take it or not? And you see them pass by, and then who knows, that long wait time might come back again because drivers are like, no, that's not worth it. And then now, even with that rate rebalancing, that's going to be a huge thing because nobody's going to want to take long rides. You're going to see a long ride on there. You're going to be like, nope, not taking it because
right.
you're not going to be being paid the same that you were prior to the change. So I don't know. I think they're going to try to push for that type of pay structure towards the remainder of the country. I do think they're going to try to push towards that. They're just testing it right now because it originally started, I think, in 5 markets. I did something on the rideshare guy about that, a few months ago when we got wind of it, and then they upped it to 20 markets now. So there is 20 new markets that have new features built in as well too. So do I think that they're going to try to push it out? I think they're going to. I think that this is more like their beta test. So they
Mhm.
did their alpha test. Now they're doing the beta test, and they're kind of seeing if this is going to really work or not. But uh, yeah, beyond that, I don't know. I mean, give me the upfront pricing. Screw the rate rebalancing.
Yeah.
Just raise rates. It's
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah, I
I'd
mean,
rather.
Tony here is saying, like, I was gonna take the flip side, but I'm gonna use this as an example first. He's saying if they made it $2, I'll even say on Uber X, if they made it $1 per mile.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that's not my love. It's not that's kind of but that's I mean, if you make it $1 per mile, it's easy math in your head, and yeah, I'll do those. I'll do that. I'll do that.
Yep.
I
Or
mean,
keep
$2
the rate.
is kinda reaching, that's kinda what I pull on Curry, and those are like, that pays way better than Uber, but I guess my thing is that, I don't understand is here, I'm gonna take the flip side on it just for a second, is that what I don't understand is with all these laws and the H1, 2, 3, 4 in Massachusetts that's coming up, New Jersey, New York, all these other states that are trying to have these ABC, uh, test type legislations passed to see if you're an independent contractor. I don't see why Uber, Lyft, Instacart, DoorDash, why they're gathering their funds to spend $200 million in California, now another 200 million in Massachusetts, then Washington State, all to fight if we're independent contractors or not, where if they just raised the rate. I know that it wouldn't change how people view it, but it would change the madness of the drivers and stuff who complain. If they
Mhm,
just raised the rate, it seems like it seems like overall they'd save money because it's not just going to be California, Massachusetts, Washington State. All the states are going to start doing this.
mhm.
They're all
Yeah, and
moving
then
towards if whether it goes or not. And like in California, we learned it was 212 million spent by the giants, but then it was 150 million spent by the state to fight it. So
mhm,
that's $350 million that was just thrown out of a window
yep,
that just went to nothing. It went to nothing other than making a proposal to have a carve out made for the gig economy in a law that shouldn't even exist.
mhm,
So why is that money not being used to better tailor to the dollar a mile thing, and why does Uber keep pushing this? Why are they reducing the pay at a time when states are trying to push this type of legislation? Because in my mind, man, you walk into court, the judge is not going to see it real good if you're lowering rates while this is going on.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. They're not. You don't know. You won't know your rates anymore because if they're doing rebalancing, you don't see that. Even in the fair breakdown, you don't see that anymore. So it's like, how do you know what you're making? It's easier for people to say, or it's easier for them to do this, so then people can't say, oh look, they lowered rates in the market. They don't even have to notify you anymore. They could just be like, "Oh, this is what we're going to offer you for this trip, and do you want it? Yes or no?" And
But you can still go into you can log into your Uber account, still go to your rate card.
yeah, but I don't know, uh, because of the rate rebalancing, you're getting more on the short end trips. So that means the rates are different there. But then in the long end, on a long trip, they're lowering that. So you
Right.
don't know what your rate is actually going to be in that aspect because
So is all that going to be reworded in the rate card?
probably, if there even is, I mean, you might see a
Oh,
rate
they
card and it might say, but they don't have to stick to that rate card anymore. That could just be the average, and then they could teeter around it as much as they want. But the thing
yeah,
that
to be honest, it would be in their advantage to get rid of that rate card because it looks awful.
yeah.
I
Oh,
mean, if you're I
absolutely.
mean, it's not something that's appealing anymore. You don't look at it and go, "Wow." You're more like,
Yeah,
"Really?"
because I mean, if you're making the IRS deduction or less, like,
Right.
how did that doesn't even make sense at that point. Like, you should be making that IRS deduction as like, okay, this is your wear and tear. Like, that's the base mileage, and then you should have your normal business end profit on top of that. So, like, if you're at 71 or at 70 cents, add the 58 cents to the IRS deduction, and that's what your rate should be per
Right.
mile. I mean, if no matter where it is. So if you're at 58 cents, now you're at a dollar 64 or whatever it is, or $1.66 per mile. And then that way you can it's adjusted. But the thing that drives me wild is, like you said at the beginning, it was always the race to the bottom in terms of what the customer is paying. And they're trying to go back and forth by a penny or so just to try to capture that audience. But because of all that dynamic pricing and everything, with the driver shortage and with everybody, trying to get rides and not as many drivers because they're doing everything else, they're collecting unemployment at the time. That's how the rates went all the way up here. And
Right.
then they're not really coming down, but people are still paying those rates. They might complain about it. They're still paying it. So why can't you just you double the rate that the rider's paying, and then you can double what the driver's actually making. And you know what? Here's the best part. All the problems that you have from drivers is probably gonna go away just by doing that. You
That
know
was exactly my point, was that, like, it seems like, they're not gonna when you go into court and you have to present all your evidence, it's not gonna look good that you're charging passengers 4 times as much, you're not giving the drivers any more, and you're whittling them down even more.
Mhm.
Why not just move to even like, I like the upfront pricing, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't even mind if they threw the rate card away. Give me a few extra seconds to take in all the details and make my decision, and I'm fine. Just show me what it is. This is a $27 ride. Do you want it? And
You know what I'd like
give me all be transparent, give me all the information, and I'll decide real quick if I want it or not. No problem. I don't
Mhm.
need a rate card anymore. Just show
Yep.
me.
And the one thing I would like to see, though, is rate multiplier.
Yeah.
So if you can multiply or say, all right, well, today I don't want to take it for the price that they're giving. I want to take it for 1.5x or 2x or whatever, how California had it before they took it away. Something like that where you can kind of slide your rates, and then that way you're in more control. So, like, you just have that better option at trying to make more money. And if people don't want to pay that, they're not going to pay it. But the thing is, they've shown that they're going to pay for it. So, why can't you do that? And they brought Prop 22 came about because drivers were mad. They brought other
Yeah, but only
legislators.
really only I mean, I've talked to both sides of that. I've talked to Vina Dubal, I've had her on the show. I've talked to, all the camps, and I'm pro IC. So I've had all those people on too that are, we need to stay independent. But even California, only 15% of the drivers approximately wanted this,
Mhm.
wanted AB5 to apply to the gig economy.
Yeah.
85% were like, dude, I don't want that at all.
Mhm.
I want my flexibility. I do this 15 to 20 hours a week. I know when and where I want to work. I don't want to be told when and where. I don't want to have a schedule. I don't want to be a W-2. I don't want any of that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Or they are W2 somewhere else and they're part-timing doing Uber. They don't want to be another W-2. They want this to be freedom.
Yeah, pretty
And
much. But the thing is, how it came about is what is because drivers were mad and they were complaining, and they went to the right people, and Lorena Gonzalez drafted something up after that Dino Court, whatever it was,
Dynamax. Yeah.
Dynamax. That's it. And the whole thing is, if they didn't lower rates to begin with, if they didn't try lowering it and continuing lowering it, and, saying, "Oh, we're going to do this instead now, and we're going to do that, and we're going to completely destroy how much you were making," like from 2017 earlier, when they went to upfront pricing on the other end, that was the big kickoff. But after that, that's where everything changed, and then they started lowering rates and lowering rates and lowering it. If they would have kept them the same, you probably wouldn't have drivers as upset, and you probably would have been able to not even have any issues in California or some of these other states. And drivers probably wouldn't be so upset and things like that, because they're getting paid okay and they're able to make money instead of, a race to the bottom in pay rates as well too.
Right. And the money that they're putting up that they put up in California to fight it, now they're going to have to put up in Massachusetts and Washington State and New Jersey. They're going to have to do that same amount of money that all could just go to the drivers and end all this.
Mm-hmm.
Because without that small group of the Lorena Gonzalez types that are protester types that'll go to make a stink, because really all it takes is a handful of people. It doesn't take millions. Handful of people can raise enough frustration to cause a problem.
Yep.
And that's what happened in California. Lorena and Vina got enough people behind that movement where they were like, we're gonna get this done. Everybody needs this. Not only do we not need it, we don't want it. You took a very, very small group of people and said, this is how everybody feels. No, it's not. That's not how anybody feels.
Yep. And a simple poll would have found that out.
Right.
Then on the flip side, if you look at how much tax money and revenue that they were going to earn from that, it was a ridiculous amount. And then because it didn't just affect rideshare, it affected a whole slew of other people. So they had to actually like revise it multiple times and say, "Oh wait, no, you're exempt, you're exempt, you're exempt," because it was literally designed for rideshare and food delivery and these big apps like that. But then, it's a scorn in California now on top of it.
So Lisa wonders why you didn't mention you were on here. I don't know.
I did post something on my channel, but I think it was the other video.
Yeah, because you weren't here, Lisa. When you go back and listen to the start, this was all my blown up explosion problem. This is nothing on Chris. This is all on me. I actually had this as set for tonight on StreamYard, and it was, I don't know, and we were on Zoom, and then came over here. The whole thing was a cluster, but anyway, it worked out. But yeah, I love it when Jim Jones says this a lot. Lorena Gonzalez is the West Coast AOC.
Yes.
I think that's pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how, because Uber's, I honestly believe Uber's not going anywhere. They're not gonna go out of business. But how are they gonna stay in business? I mean, and why do they keep fighting it? Why don't they just, I mean, obviously it's easy as a driver to say, hey, raise my rates. But why isn't there some middle ground? Why are you going underneath the standard deduction for miles on what you'll pay for a mile?
Yeah.
I mean, I got to twist that one around my head because I'm not sure how the government's going to feel about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Lyft was doing that for a little while too when they did the switch, saying, "Oh, we're going to cut rates in half, but we're going to pay you the time you pick up or the time you hit accept all the way to the way when you drop somebody off. So you get paid that entire time." But it just flopped and failed, and that's why they got rid of it. So, but yeah, saying, I get paid 36 cents a mile, but that's the other thing too. Like, you get paid 58 cents a mile. I get paid 67 cents a mile when we have somebody in the car.
Right.
That doesn't include the time to go pick somebody up and the distance it goes to pick somebody up. You start adding that and you're seeing your rate drop substantially. You're only, you could be making, 30, 40, 50, even 50 cents at the high end if it's all close pickups. Then at that point, because otherwise, yeah, you got to add that mileage in, and then even mileage going from when you drop them off to, the next ride. If you go somewhere and kind of park for a little bit, that mileage gets added. The mileage to and from, the house, or if you got to stop at the gas station or something, that all starts getting added into it. So no matter what, nobody's making really actually above the IRS minimum. Everybody's making lower than that. They're just getting supplemented with that time rate too.
Right. Yeah, to me it's weird because when I used to do what's up, Nick? I just saw Beacon was in here too.
Oh, what's up?
I just, when I would go, like when I work for a laser company too, and if they had me use my car, even for little errands, that standard mileage deduction is what they have to pay you. They
Mhm.
have to pay you that if they're asking you to use their vehicle for a company. So if it's 57.5 cents, like you were saying, let's just say it is, or it's 58 cents or whatever, and they move it down to 53 cents per mile, they're literally breaking the federal law.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because the law is you have to pay somebody using their car that minimum amount to go do tasks for work.
Mhm. Yeah, and that kind of brings up then why aren't drivers getting paid to go pick somebody up? They're only getting paid when somebody's in the car. Because that's no matter how you look at it, that's still part of the job.
Right.
I mean, and I use that term loosely, but that's part of the rideshare. You can't just magically appear there and not have any expense that's tied to it. So yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it's very bizarre to see something like that. And the question is, how hasn't that been really raised up more so?
Well, and I feel like it's these kind of moves that's giving fuel to the fire for the PRO Act and things that could even be on a national level and make everybody, all 59 million independent contractors, not just gig contractors, but all 59 million would lose their right to be one.
Hmm.
It's like, that PRO Act is like the most devilish thing that's out there. And if that were to go through, that doesn't just screw up the gig economy, that screws up everybody, freelance writers, graphic
Hmm.
artists, interpreters, musicians, everybody gets affected.
Yep.
And so I don't know. I don't get why
Realtors.
it seemed
Um,
like you were saying it. Maybe it doesn't have to be like, hey, if we're charging 4 times as much or twice as much, let's give the drivers twice as much. But why can't you give the drivers 1.3 times as much or 1.5
mhm.
if you're taking twice as much? Just to end these laws, if
Yep.
nothing else, to show that you're like somewhat caring about the people that work for you, because these companies have so many people on the platform. That's why they're being looked at, because the government wants to know, are you even taking care of these people at all? And they're constantly reducing rates. So that's what gives this fuel,
Hmm.
these PROACs and stuff. It's like if they went the other way for a minute, they might get some of these states to back off and go, wait, Uber just raised their rates.
Hmm.
We're not going to have the case we thought we had.
Yep.
I don't know.
So I
But
mean, that could also be kind of why they're putting the trip radar in and saying, "Oh, well, this is an option. You can choose to take those. There, it's a pool, and you can kind of pick it and choose it. And then we're giving you all the information up front without an acceptance, uh, without having the acceptance rate play into it." Um, so, I mean, all those moves could potentially be to try to use that down the road in the event that there's some sort of lawsuit or something that they're saying, "Oh, no, 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 we don't come anywhere near that when it comes to like an ABC test."
yeah, yeah. Well,
So,
I mean, that's just kind of where everything's headed, though, is that Uber's going to be spending all of the money that we drivers should be getting. They could be spending a third of what they're going to have to fight these states with in these states. A third of that could be spent giving the drivers a little bump and
yep.
could end this, and it could save them money on their lawsuits. So I'm really what is Nick saying? Something about ice cream and 48 cent. What? Courier. $1 ice cream delivery. Okay, Nick. uh,
I don't know. I
uh,
want I want to deliver for Glassdoor.
yeah. Well, thank you for bearing with my craziness today. I
Oh, no
did not
problem.
expect to be pulling my hair out and running around. And anybody that saw and hit a reminder for tonight with Chris and I, that has now I had to delete that. So this is it, and it'll just be up now. So, Chris,
Well,
thank you so
I
much for
have
taking the
one
time.
I have one last question for you that I'd like your thoughts on,
Mhm.
because I've been asking people this quite a bit now. If you were if you went back and were driving Uber, or Lyft, and if they said today, "We're gonna get rid of promotions, but we're going to pay every single ride, we're gonna give you a boost on your pay rate." Would you like that?
I would love that because I hate promotions.
Yep.
I to me they're games. I don't
Mhm.
want to play games. I'm trying to earn money for my son and I.
Yep,
I'm not.
I completely agree with you right there. You know, if that's why promotions actually came about from what I've heard, is because what they do is they took part of that upper top part and said, "You know what? We're gonna skim that off, and now everybody's gonna get paid this lower rate, but we're gonna put promotions in. Whether you get them or not, though, that's up to you if you're gonna accept as many rides and go out and drive." So they can cut it down a little bit there.
I
So
just throw all of it into one pool of those are all games,
mhm,
and
yep.
I don't want to play those games anymore. I just want to be paid fairly, or even like we were talking about the upfront model. Just at least show me everything. Show me everything. Show me the distance, where I'm going, where I'm picking up, how much I'm going to make, and I can make the decision based on that. I don't need the per mile rate. I don't need the per minute. Just show me the flat, show me how much I'm
Mhm,
making, and
yep.
try and make some kind of push to bring tipping back into the game, because when Travis was running the show, drivers got paid a lot better. However, they didn't even allow tipping.
Yep.
So this became a culture of no tipping.
Mhm,
I mean, even food delivery, people know to tip. But for some reason, people at a hotel going to the airport tip the door guy, tip the person taking their luggage, tip this, tip that, tip everything in town while they're here. But they don't think the ride to and from the airport needs a tip.
yep.
And
That's
it's just a culture that Uber created. And if they're going to race to the bottom, they really should find a way to incorporate that tip a little more. Like, you know, some kind of like, if you haven't put in a tip when the ride ends, like, would you like to add a tip to your driver if you felt like your ride was
mhm,
comfortable, or if you enjoyed this, instead of a rating system, something like that, put that back in there too. Start
yep.
explaining to people, because it was people were into that notion that all of us were millionaires that did rideshare, because in the beginning we were making tons of money.
Mhm,
And I think that's how they wanted it. They wanted us bragging, like, like, oh, I make tons of money doing Uber, because I was.
mhm,
But then it was like there was no tipping needed. Now there is tipping needed. And it's like they created a culture, and now they're racing to the bottom on pay, and people are just used to, well, you guys get paid really well. No, we used to. That's not what's going on here anymore.
mhm.
And I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know. I think that needs to happen, but I think that, yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think that they waste a ton of time coming up with these games, bonuses and streaks, and then just get rid of all of it.
yep.
Who cares? Just
Just
get rid of it, man.
pay, you know, take whatever rate everybody's getting right now, add 58 cents or whatever the IRS deduction is to that, and that is the per mile rate. And then, you do the per minute rate. I would be fine with it being where it is. That's just another 12, 18 cents or whatever it is per minute that somebody's there. So it helps a little bit more. But yeah, doing something like that would probably greatly be appreciative of a driver.
Or even, and also, like, if you are going to have games, make them good games. Make it like every 1,000 rides that you do, they give you, I don't know, $1,000.
Yeah,
I mean,
very nice.
I'm just throwing an arbitrary number out, but I'm just saying, like, don't make them games, make them like
Or
actual goals for people.
the 1K lift jacket.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just these little games are like, if you're like, hey, go on a streak, and on the, if you do three, you'll get this. Well, when you wait an hour for that third ride and you can't
Mhm.
turn off, or if you hit a no sell area and it drops you out and you come back on and it starts you over.
Yep.
I
Or
mean, just,
even that you're taking 2 rides that are good, and then the 3rd ride's 28 minutes away going, 2 miles down the street, and they could walk there.
yeah. Well, Chris, thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know you're in the middle of a double move, a stacked move, I guess they'd call it.
Yeah. Yep.
Like a
Temporary
stacked
temporary
order.
location right now. So but at least everything's settled. So at least that's good. So like I
Yeah.
can kind of get back to some swing of things, except, heading down to the Carolinas to go view some places and then, driving back and all that. So yeah, and no problem. It was good.
All right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time, and thank you everybody for joining us. And yeah, if you missed most of it or whatever, go back and watch it. Share it with other people. It was my mess up because I don't do them on Mondays. I'd always do these on Thursday nights. I don't know why I messed it up so bad though. But thanks everybody for bearing with me, and thanks Chris for joining us today.
All right, definitely. Yep. Have a great
Yeah.
rest of the day, everybody.